Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. An incredible guest today. I had the pleasure of being interviewed by this woman yesterday, Isabelle. We are joined. She is a business and marketing coach, host of the podcast that I had the pleasure of being on yesterday, Start Somewhere, and also a co-creator of the Salsa. She just told me the name is Sala Wellness with qualifications in marketing, branding, social media. Isabelle works with clients to help them build a magnetic brand and teach them how to show up confidently online. Would love to talk about confidence today. Isabelle has impacted many through her speaking, mentoring, and consulting. You can work with Isabelle via her online programs and her private one-on-one spaces. I screwed up your introduction, but nonetheless, Isabelle, thank you for joining me and good to see you again.
Lewis, likewise. Thank you for having me. We almost got there. It's Sala. So
Sala.
very, very close. Yeah.
Beautiful. There's my improvement for next time. Isabelle, as always, I'm a story person and I'd love to just hear, I guess, my guest story because as we spoke yesterday, I met you for the first time yesterday. I don't know too much about your story. Obviously, your branding's on point. It looks like you're helping a lot of people, which really resonated with me. And we had a really quality conversation yesterday, but now I get the pleasure of flipping the script on you and I guess hearing your story. So if you could just share for myself and for everyone, your story, who you are and how you got to be who you are today.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I'm really trying to figure out how to share this in as minimal words as possible because it can sound a lot. But long story short, my background is in marketing. I went to university and studied this. And I spent a couple of years kind of flirting between marketing jobs, social media management, content creation, that kind of thing. And I never really found what lit me up to the max. And that being said, I knew I always wanted to be a coach. It was always a burning desire ever since I was probably at university. And I started my podcast, Start Somewhere, which yes, we shared a great chat on yesterday. And that was just kind of running in the background whilst I was working my marketing jobs. And I knew I just wanted to take that somewhere, hence the name Start Somewhere. So that started out purely as a passion project, as a side hustle, sharing lots of content on whatever I was really into at the moment. So back then it was very wellness, very mindset based, still very much is. And that being said, though, things just kind of evolved the more I evolved. And I feel like one thing led to another. And I eventually took the plunge to leave my full-time, I call it my full-time corporate job last year as a social media manager. And I resigned from that with no job lined up. And that was terrifying. But I had this gut feeling that it was somewhat the right thing to do. And so I was very, very strategic, even though I was taking a risk. So I kind of set myself up to do some freelance marketing work just to get me by. And I knew I wanted to be a coach. And I was like, I felt like the time was right to go all in on that. And that's exactly what I did. So I, used my marketing expertise to market myself, to build my business, create my brand, put myself out there like there was no tomorrow. I just knew I had to be this courageous, confident person. And I also just had a feeling that everything I was doing, really just turning my side hustle, my podcast into a full-time career, I knew, like just in my gut, I knew in my heart that this is what I would be helping people with. So yet again, I was very strategic in every single thing I did when it came to producing my podcast and building my brand and creating my content. I started to just take notes on and really just file away exactly what it is I was doing. And then yet again, one thing led to another. I got to a point, not even that long ago, I've probably been officially full-time now in my business the past 2 months. So I let go of all my freelancing, all my contract marketing work and just went full, like 2 feet in straight away. And I just haven't looked back, and I've been able to pull upon from everything I've done. And it's crazy how quickly, the universe and the world kind of aligns for you when you are in this aligned state. And that's when the app you mentioned, Sala, I'm a co-creator of with 2 wonderful people. And that came up into my life at the start of 2022. And then my coaching really took off. And now I'm at a point where I'm helping other business owners with their branding, their marketing, their confidence. And I'm able to just look back on what helped me and share that with others. And yeah, it's a pretty exciting, wild ride I've created for myself.
I love the enthusiasm and the genuine confidence, love, excitement. I love hearing it. It's intoxicating. So, I guess where to start, there's about 4 or 5 angles I'd like to take this, but I guess there's a couple of themes that kind of showed up just then. It's like when you're doing I think the full-time marketing role, or you're doing the study for marketing, or you're in the marketing world, you just said something didn't light you up, or you're trying to find what did light you up. You left your job because it felt like the right thing to do, even though you had nothing, no job guaranteed lined up. You used the word align, things were just aligning for you. Just a lot of, I guess, energetic things were showing up for you. I'd love to know a little bit more detail on what you believe that was telling you, or what allowed you to take the jump, which is a big jump for so many people. To leave that full-time job security can scare the shit out of people, and it's probably one of the bigger things that holds people back from taking the leap. But what was that voice? What was the calling? What was it for you that allowed you to be in tune with yourself, to allow you to take the jump and now look at the opportunities that are lining up for you, right? The podcast, the Sala, if I said it right, the wellness app, the coaching, the mentor, like it's all lining up for you, which is epic, but it wouldn't have happened if you didn't take the leap. So if you could just maybe share some light on the consciousness part of you, and I guess what
Mhm.
was coming up for you, and yeah, what got you to take the leap is I guess where I'm getting to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to say that it was terrifying resigning from my job with nothing else lined up. It wasn't necessarily the easiest decision, but yeah, I guess coming back now to what really helped me is I am a big meditator. I've been doing it consistently for almost 3 years. It's like the thing I'm the most proud about. And that has just been the biggest driving force in so much of what I do, to create this confidence, to feel really aligned, to be really in touch with with my intuition, with my inner guidance. I do feel very, very connected to that part of myself. And it's so interesting because I'm constantly reflecting on what's going on in my life and that kind of thing. And I'm a big journaler. And when I was really looking back, when I left my job, I realized that taking that plunge and taking that leap, it just like dropped me into alignment instantly. And I just knew in my heart I was on the right path because things were just working out in their favor. That being said, it's been the most rockiest, like almost 12 months now. It was about August last year of my life. I've never gone through so many ups and downs, so many breakdowns, so many breakthroughs. Like it's just been an absolute tornado. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Like no regrets. I've just completely learned and transformed. And I feel like so many parts of me were really just like shed away. Like, people, the way I'll think about things, even parts of my identity just completely challenged. But I just knew, yet again, I'm saying this again, like I just knew in my heart it's what I had to go through so I could learn all these lessons. And coming back to what really helped me, it really was my practice of meditation, because it really just enabled me to see things clearly and to see things as to what they are, not what they could be. So it really helped me cultivate this, super intense grounding energy. Although I'm a very much, dreamer, my head's in the clouds. I love to manifest. I'm always thinking, creating all these amazing, what if moments in my life. But meditating really allows me just to kind of drop back down and, be somewhat realistic with my dreams and goals. And coming back as well to how I shared, being somewhat also strategic with taking risks. But that being said, I'm all for taking the jump and seeing what will happen, because you either learn or you win. And I don't think you're really going to fail. I think if you take a jump and it doesn't work out as you favor, cross it off that list. It means that you're not going to do it again. So you've learned something. So yeah, I'm a very big advocate for taking risks. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. I know I'm a little bit kind of left skewed on that sense, but I'm sure you can somewhat resonate with that. But I don't know. I think I'm just curious as to always wondering what else is out there, and I'm just so dedicated to myself, and I just want my dreams to come true. So I'm like, I'm just going to do what I can, and we'll go from there.
Have you always been like you said, you've been meditating for 3 years now, which is fantastic.
Mhm.
Have you always been, I guess, into spirituality, if you want to call it that, or consciousness or enlightenment or awareness? Have you been like that growing up? Is that like from mum or from dad? Like where did that get introduced to you?
Oh, my family's the complete opposite to me. I've always been very interested in it as, as a kid. Not so a kid, I guess more so university, as an early teen, late 20s. And then I always wanted to meditate. I just never really found the right time or knew how to do it. And then it was actually interesting. One of my jobs when I first left uni, the bosses were both meditators. So they really introduced that to myself and my coworkers, which was incredible. And I got to do a course, and that just took me on my spiritual journey. I always had a feeling inside of me, like there was something, and I was always very, very fascinated, very open-minded, very just wondering, like, is there a divine path for us, that kind of thing. At the same time, I truly believe we very much create our own reality, but we can have that support. But I'm very much, I want to say, like the black sheep of my family and my friends. Like no one really understands, sometimes what I'm saying or what I'm doing, but I'm like, don't worry, I trust myself, I've got this. And it's always proven me, it's always had my back. Meditation and believing in the universe and manifesting, it's just always been there for me. So yeah, it's just been my thing, to be honest. I just kind of, found the right books and podcasts and people to listen to and did a lot of my own self-learning. I really just kind of delved deep into a rabbit hole of it and haven't looked back.
How would you, for your beginners, say someone who's heard it, and I don't know if it's just the people I'm attracting or it's just where I'm at in my life, but literally probably the last 6 guests in a row, the word meditation or consciousness or awareness has definitely popped up. How would a beginner or someone getting started, I guess, start to get introduced to meditation? Because there's so many forms, there's guided ones, there's people like I've got people that say there's put like frequency noises in the background, like high level frequency of love or peace or forgiveness or whatever. And there's some people that say have no noise at all, absolute silence. Some people have guided meditation. So what would you suggest for a newbie who wants to start to get involved in meditation? Where would they start?
Oh, sorry, it just froze at the end there.
Oh, hopefully it recorded my side of it from my computer. I was asking, how does one get started, I guess, in meditation as a whole?
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much out there. It can be so overwhelming. I think a few things to kind of consider. Firstly, I think so much of what stops people from meditating is thinking that we need to stop our thoughts completely, but that isn't even a fact because it's impossible to stop your thoughts. So, being really kind to yourself, and as well, meditation can look different. It can be in so many different ways. Like I feel a lot of us do it without even realizing. It can be, taking these walks maybe with no AirPods in, no musical podcast. And it can be just maybe like you like to sit and just look out of a window for a couple moments or just catch your breath, or maybe you do some kind of visualization at night when you're trying to fall asleep. So I feel we're all doing some kind of meditation. And then of course there's so many out there. So there's guided meditations with somebody's voice, and the type that I do, it's called transcendental meditation. And that's where you don't necessarily have a voice guiding you. You get given a mantra and you repeat that in your mind every time a thought comes. So you're kind of training yourself to observe your thoughts, but not allow yourself to get too consumed by them. So that's kind of the main, I guess, like synopsis of meditation. So kind of getting familiar with that first. It's not to stop everything. It's just to observe what's going on and then to gently kind of push it away and not judge yourself for what comes up as well. And then in terms of thinking, okay, that sounds cool. Like, how can I actually do meditation now? I'm actually going to share our app Sala. So it's myself and two other people. And, we've all got such a strong mission to really just change the world with meditation and breath work. I'm not sure if you've heard of that before, and yoga and just a whole bunch of other mindfulness and wellness modalities. And, we have a bunch of different meditations as well. So we have a whole bunch of teachers sharing different styles because there's just so many different things that you can do. So there is a free trial if people want to download Sala. Otherwise, if you just jump on YouTube and, type in guided meditation, maybe start with like a 2 or 5 minute one, just start small. And my biggest advice is just don't judge yourself and don't try not get too frustrated with yourself if you can't sit, because just start, the smaller the better, and then it's a practice. So like, yeah, I've been meditating for 3 years. I'm not like, I haven't mastered it. I never will. No one really ever will, unless maybe you're a monk. But just every single day, chip away at it, just start to bring it as a habit into your life. And I just guarantee you're never going to regret learning how to meditate ever.
I love that. Well, let's go into the business. So you've got two, I guess. Let's you're just talking about it, Sala, just then. Tell us, I guess, how that came to be. What's it designed for? What's the passion? What's the purpose? Just tell us, give us your insight into what Sala is.
Yeah, so like I mentioned just a few moments ago, we really wanted to create kind of like an instant, like a one-stop shop, I want to say, for all these mindfulness modalities. So, we jump on YouTube, there's a billion videos, and there's so many apps out there and that kind of thing. And, we really wanted to create something that had mindfulness, breath work. We have a real big wellness side to it as well. So yeah, there's apps like Headspace and Calm, which are incredible. I've used them before as well. So we're like, okay, how can we make this a little bit different? And so we thought community is just so important, especially like more than ever. People just crave community. We want to feel a part of something. And, especially virtually, that's just so possible. Like, we have Facebook groups and, you and I met online on Instagram. Like we can meet so many people online, which is incredible. So we thought, okay, how can we kind of use this to our advantage, I want to say. And we really wanted community to be a huge aspect of Sala. So on the app, it's kind of like, a bit of like a Facebook interface, but there's no chatting, there's no posting, there's no messaging, because we don't really want it to be that per se. It's more so kind of like a newsfeed where we can just share content and really allow people to connect with one another and find that like-minded person who, we may, you, for example, may be really into meditation, but maybe none of your friends are. And that was me for a while. And it's like, it's so much easier when we have that support around us to keep going and to talk about it and, that kind of thing. So we really wanted to create a platform where people can jump on all over the world, find people like-minded to themselves who are interested in conscious living and wellness and, other mindfulness modalities, and connect and meditate together. So yeah, it's a pretty special thing with what we've created, and it's really special for me to be a part of, to be a co-creator, and also to be a teacher on the app. I share a whole bunch of meditations because it's just always, as soon as I learned meditation, I started to see the benefits in my life, which took about 6 or so months for me to actually see the benefits of meditation. I was like, holy shit, I want everyone to experience this, because it just changed me in the best but most like subtle way possible. So it's always been a mission to change the world with meditation. And I've always thought that's a pretty far-fetched thing to say, but coming back to, who I am, I'm a very consistent person. I'm like, I want to make this happen. And then the app just kind of came to fruition. Obviously a lot more pieces in between, but here we are now.
And what are some of those, before we, I guess, because I want to get into your other business as well, but what you just mentioned, it's improved your quality of life in so many different ways. What are those types of ways, just for people listening? Because I just know some people, so the mystical and the spiritual can be a bit woo-woo for some people. And if we could just maybe get some tangible, like how has this actually practically improved your life? Are you more present? Are you less emotionally triggered? Are you more confident in yourself, who you are more, etc.? Like, what are the ways that it has actually tangibly improved the quality of your life?
Yeah, I love that, because I think, we can think woo-woo and that kind of thing, but it can be very, very practical. And the biggest kind of things that come to my mind instantly is confidence. It just has made me very self-aware, very sure of myself, very clear in who I am and what I wanted. Self-discipline has been incredible, because you're literally training yourself to sit still and pretty much do nothing for 5, 10, 20 plus minutes. That has been the biggest thing for me. And those two things especially have just rippled on into my life, like the ripple effect. So my confidence and my self-discipline, like I've just seen that in my motivation at the gym. Like I'm just so committed going to the gym like 6 days a week for honestly the past 3 years, like consistently. Like obviously you have your off days and your off weeks and whatnot, but I just really owe that to meditation, because it's just this intense self-discipline. And like, especially for business owners, it's the best. It's like the best hack, I feel, and just your concentration, your consistency. Like I could just go on and on, but yeah, confidence, self-discipline, they're like the two biggest things for me.
I love that. Let's go into the marketing aspect of you as well, because you're a coach, you're a business and marketing coach. Maybe just give us a big picture view of you as a coach. So how do you help people? So if I was a client of yours, what would you generally be helping me with as a business and marketing coach?
Yeah. So two kind of main things. The first one clearly being your marketing and your branding. But that being said, I, give my own kind of flair, my own kind of touch to it. And that really is creating that magnetic brand. So it's all about, the embodiment, the energy, the energetics behind it. And when I say this, I don't necessarily mean in like a woo-woo sense, but more so you're walking your talk. You're being the coach you say you are, and that is a reflection of the clients that you help. So I'm such a big believer, like I want my clients, I want to consider them to be my friends. Like I consider them to be people quite similar to myself. Therefore, I need to be that person first. So it's really about helping them create this magnetic brand. And there's a few kind of components and strategies I throw into this to help cultivate that. But yeah, a big part of it really is that energetic piece. So getting super crystal clear on, okay, where in your life are you not showing up? Okay, you want to attract, a certain amount of clients. Where are you not doing that for yourself? Why don't you have them? So I truly believe everything is such a mirror. It's such a reflection in our life. And then of course, my very tangible theory, like marketing skills and expertise come into play. Like I've had It's just interesting how life plays out. I've had such a big experience in, a big work experience, like working for so many different types of like products, e-commerce, service based in so many different positions. And I truly feel that was all meant to happen for a reason. I either resigned or almost got fired from so many jobs. And I was like, whatever, I know this is meant to be. I know I'm not meant to work for somebody, but I just, every time I learned something, I just like tucked it away. And it's like, now I just have this abundance of marketing knowledge. And yeah, it's pretty special. I'm able just to bring so much of that theory and that practical side, but then also that real energetics, that real magnetic brand side, which is just like kind of the two versions of me in one. So yeah, it's a pretty wild, fun, energizing experience. I love it.
What do most people go wrong, or not? Where do most people go wrong when it comes to marketing? Because I think I think it's Wayne Gretzky says the quote, business at its fundamental form is two things: innovation and marketing. And obviously it's such a huge part of a business, because you could have the world's best product, but if no one knows about it, you're not going to have any clients, versus you could have a really crappy product, but if it's marketed very well, millions of people are going to have it, aka McDonald's has a terrible product. It kills you. So but it's so damn marketed, like literally you see the golden arches and you hear that little ba da ba ba ba, you literally get the taste, you start to have saliva building up in your mouth because they're so good at their marketing. So what do most people go wrong with their marketing?
That's a good question. Oh, okay. I think a few things. I think firstly, well, the three things that make your marketing successful. So when people aren't doing these properly, it could go wrong. It's your branding. It's how consistent you are. And it's also a storytelling component. So like yourself, I very much love storytelling. And that was how my podcast started, very much in a storytelling way. Because when you think back to, movies and fantasies and that kind of stuff, growing up as kids, we always had stories around us. So like clearly there's something in there, right? And people love to follow something. A lot of the times there's a good guy, a bad guy, that kind of thing. And we live in such a world where yes, there's so many people doing exactly what we're doing. That shouldn't stop us. So the way you can stand out from the crowd is by being yourself and owning your story. Yes, anyone can have a podcast, anyone can be a coach. Obviously not everyone, anyone, but it's very common. However, by you voicing and telling your story, nobody can really replicate that because that is yours. So I think getting super crystal clear on what is your story. And this is where confidence comes in, because a lot of the times people aren't really confident enough to share much about themselves, or they think it's bad. And I've really, like, on yet again reflecting, I've looked back and so many kind of shitty things in my life I've been able to turn into some kind of piece of content. And yeah, it hasn't been the nicest thing to share, but it's helped so many people. And just look, like, as simple as breakups, I shared such a big breakup story on mine. And even now, like 2 years later, I'm still getting messages from girls being like, I literally feel like I'm you, like you are speaking my mind. And like, that just warms my heart, because it's that storytelling content. And then consistency, how I shared, we get so caught up in perfectionism and wanting a perfectly pretty Instagram feed and quotes and colors. And like, yeah, like that serves somewhat of a purpose, but it's consistency. And it's just constantly letting people know that you're there. And by constantly showing up, it also brings like a sense of authority to your brand. And, you're not just vibing high or, for 1 week or for 1 month, and then you just drop off the face of the earth and then come back again. It's like, what's that really telling your audience? So it's that consistency. It's, approaching social media with an open mind, and done is better than perfect. And, if a post doesn't get enough likes or views or whatever it is, like, who cares? Like, don't let that stop you. Just keep on going, because you never know, something might blow up a month from now. That post that got 2 likes, maybe that one person who liked it just hit absolute home for them. You just don't know. So just don't get too attached to your social media. Just, take it with an open mind. And and branding. Cultivate such a strong brand where people, they see your color, they see your font, like you shared with the McDonald's. And people like, yes, that's that. Like the coloring I have for my podcast Star Summer, it's quite, a bit of a niche color. It's kind of purple, it's kind of brown, it's kind of in between. Yeah. And I just feel like it's quite a niche coloring. And, eventually people are going to be like, yes, start somewhere. So, start to cultivate some really strong branding components that are going to make you recognizable.
If we could go into branding a bit more, this is actually a selfish question, because I think it's one of my weakest points is branding, because I guess image is not, in the words of values from my listeners that I always talk about, image and branding is not a really high value of mine. I see myself as an artist, where I'm good at the coaching aspect of things, but how to package it in a very professional, nice way so it's on brand is definitely not a strength of mine. So if you were to even break that down a little bit further, like what how does one become better at branding? Obviously, you've got having the color scheme in check, and that's one part of it. But is there any, I guess, even more thoughts on branding as a whole? How can someone develop their brand? How can someone refine their brand? Just branding as a whole, because it's something I personally struggle with. I don't, I just don't think it's a strength of mine. So yeah, I'd love to learn from you, from the branding expert, how someone can improve their brand even further.
Yeah, of course. I love teaching a lot of my clients about this. And, we'll use yours as an example, Laura. So obviously coaching, it's essentially a personal brand. It's a reflection of you. And it can be so hard when, maybe you don't have the marketing background or kind of the creative eye, like you still very much can be great at branding and marketing. So, with your example, Laura, it's like using your own business, start to look at yourself and be like, okay, like what are my values? Like you've already shared what they are. What are some things that really just reflect and represent who you are? And once you can kind of get a bit of an understanding of those key things, you can start to really build your brand from that. So you can start to kind of pull upon it. So as an example, with my coloring, I shared it's quite like the purpley browny kind of colors. So how I got to that, I didn't just find it and I was like, yeah, that's the one. Aside from it, yes, being pretty, I was like, okay, who am I? Who's my brand? It's very cozy. It's very grounding. So coffee was such a big part of, who I am, my life, and also my branding. Like I asked out on every podcast episode what my guest's favorite coffee order is. And then coming back to the very grounding, like very feminine energy, but not too pinky and that kind of thing. But yeah, I just wanted that really like soft, earthy kind of vibe. So starting to just look at yourself. It is easier. I mean, not easier per se, but I do mostly help people who have personal brands. So we're able to kind of just look at themselves when it can be, if it's a product, that's kind of a different conversation. But when it is yourself, just start to be like, what are my core values? What's my personality? What do I like? What do I don't like? What are some things that sum me up? I'm into the gym. Do I like eating certain foods? Am I vegan? Am I this? Am I that? And yeah, just kind of have fun with it. And my favorite thing about branding is that I personally feel like there's no rules, like there's no right or wrong. Same with marketing. Like obviously, yes, there are frameworks and that kind of stuff to follow that do work. But end of the day, like I think it's fun to kind of go against the grain and to not always do what we should be doing. I think that was a big part of me why I didn't really love working for people, because I was just constantly somewhat challenged, like with my creativity, my ideas. And I just felt like I just couldn't fully embrace and be who I was. And that's why I started Start Somewhere, because I'm like, no one can tell me it's wrong. I can essentially do whatever I wanted. And I think that's why I love marketing and branding, because especially when it's a reflection of you, like there's no wrong. Like, yeah, there's frameworks to follow, like I shared, and they definitely serve a purpose and they definitely help, but it's not black and white. Like it's colorful as. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. No, I got a heap out of that. Thank you. Thank you for enlightening me with that. I'm curious on where your passion slash purpose comes from for not well, because you've got the obviously marketing, the branding, then you've got the wellness aspect of it, but maybe just the drivers yourself. You're a very driven woman. You've got your feminine side, of course, but you've got that go getter, I guess, attitude. Where does your passion and purpose come from for you to be doing what it is that you're doing? You're doing podcasts, and you've got a business, you're a coach, you take on clients, you're a co-creator of an app, you've got a few things going on. You're obviously you got a personal life as well. So I'm just curious where that, I guess, drive and passion comes from.
Or it broke again. I don't know if it's my internet connection or yours. I can't. I am very much a fiery kind of go-getter person. I've always been like that. And I think as well, because especially when I started Start Somewhere, it was, it's completely mine. It's my baby. Really having that like autonomy and having that creative passion and that flair. I think that is what sparked a lot of what I do. And I'm just a very kind of fiery go-getter person. It very much is just my nature. And I think, going through school, through uni, I, found it very, mediocre. It wasn't amazing, wasn't shit. It was just like, it is what it is. And I think finding this, I'm like, this is my thing. Like, I know I'm meant to do this. I've always been very open and interested into entrepreneurship. I always knew I wanted to be a business owner, be my own boss. I feel so many of us say that, which is, it's amazing, but I just knew I wanted to make it happen. So I think I just have such a strong commitment to myself. And, I think of my dream life and I'm like, why can't I have that? And I just do what I can to make it happen, and start somewhere yet again. It's, it's starting with those first steps right now. not the entire staircase, because we look up at the staircase and we get so overwhelmed and so terrified and we don't even want to take a step. Whereas, a whole much of my model and my branding yet again is, what's the first step? Like, what can you do right now without waiting for XYZ, without waiting for permission, without waiting for when you look a certain way? What can you do right this second? And then it's seriously that momentum that comes, and that inspiration and that alignment. And yeah, it's just kind of who I am in a nutshell.
Beautiful. You're I said at the start, very, very contagious energy. Your vision, for yourself, for your future, for your business, enlighten me with it. What's your vision?
My vision evolves somewhat over time as well. But, when I'm being super open and super real about it, it really is just to be this number one platform for female business owners to come to create this magnetic brand, to, take the first steps to building their dream life, whether that is being like, okay, I want to start a side hustle. I don't know what, or maybe they have a well-established business. Maybe they want to start a podcast. They want to start an app. They just want to start something. They just want to be around that kind of energy and that proximity, and, very much into health and wellness as well. That's obviously a huge part of what I am. So that is going to be a big reflection in my brand. But yeah, really just being that number one, brand business coach in that space. I'm like, if I'm going to dream, I may as well dream big. So that is the future end goal vision.
And what type of, you kind of a mix in there. What is your, maybe, is it your current or maybe for your future vision? What's the ideal client that you'd be working with? So who would you want to be attracting? Who are you working with? That might be the current clients now, or it might be a little bit different when you're at that point, but who's your ideal client? Who do you work with?
So, I mean, obviously an array of different people in terms of like, mostly females. I have worked with a few males that as well, and, very open to different ages and where they're at in their business, that kind of sense. It's more so I want to say the traits. So a very kind of, go-getter to an extent. Okay, maybe we're not all super go-getters. I do feel I am quite a big go-getter, but people that just have that little spark inside of them where they want to make the change, like they are willing to self-invest and they are willing to take the steps. They're not just like, yep, I want this, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Like that, I'm not going to be able to work with somebody like that because they're not taking the steps. There's no action there. So I get so energized by my coaching calls. Like I had one this morning and, I wasn't feeling as energized prior. And then I jump on the call and she had just had so many incredible wins in her business. And I felt so energized after. And then she messaged me after. She's like, I always feel so energized after our conversations, after our calls. And I'm like, this is the type of energy. It's like, people who are just, they're willing to make the changes. They're so open to self-investment. They're so open to changing and to hearing other people's views and other people's ways of being and doing things. Those are the types of people I love, and those are the types of people who I work with who see the big results. So, it's not necessarily a certain personality trait or age or anything like that. It's just kind of having that specific drive within them, that openness, and they're just ready to make a change. Like they're just ready.
What's your experience with, you use the word self-investment, and I also self-development, it's another word for that. How has that played a part in your journey? Self-development, investing into yourself.
Hugely. I probably wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for, I invested in my first coach in 2020, and that really helped me like birth the podcast. I had no idea I was even going to do the podcast, and I was doing one-on-one with her, and I knew I wanted to do something, and that was kind of that burning desire within me. It's like I should kind of reframe how I said people who are ready. Sometimes we don't feel like we're ready, but it's just kind of that feeling inside of us, that inkling that we really want to explore. And I had that within me, but there were so many limiting beliefs and confidence blocks, and I'm like, I'm not ready to do this. And she really helped me bring to light what those limiting beliefs were, and then to work through them. And, one thing led to another. I then had a podcast at the end of that one-on-one session with her. And I've always invested. So I've had probably like 3 one-on-one coaches. And at the moment I'm in a mastermind, which is very much more business-based, to really make my business boom, basically. So I'm always self-investing. I'm about to wrap up on this mastermind. So I'm already keeping an eye out as to what my next investment will be. And I've noticed every time I make an investment, it just comes back to me tenfold. Yes, whether that's in like money value or in so many other ways possible. Like it's funny, the person who I co-create the app with, he actually was my mentor like a couple of years ago, and then we just became really good friends, and then I did one of his programs, and I just always knew that investing in him would give me something in return. Like I just had this feeling, and now we're business partners. So it's pretty cool that We've had that full evolution. yeah, it's pretty special. So I just think the people who you invest in, like they just shape you in such a way, and, you know, learn from people who have been in a position that you want to be in. And I always did that. Like Carlos, his name, who has the app, I looked up to him as a few years older than me, and everything he was doing I wanted. And I was like, okay, he does coaching. Like, I just want to learn from him. And he taught me everything he knew. And I've always just looked up to people who are, you know, they're just quite a few steps in front of me, but enough for I'm like, that can be my next level. So how can I take that leap? And then when you're in that proximity, when you're in that space, the rest just kind of unravels. Like you learn from where you want to be. So self-investment, biggest advocate. I think as a coach, like it would be kind of crazy if I didn't self-invest.
Absolutely. And just your point on investing with people who have done what it is that you're wanting to do or are where you want to be, rather than people that I guess will tell you how to do it but haven't necessarily done it themselves, I think is huge, because I find there's a lot of people in the coaching world that they've read one or two books, or they've watched a YouTube video or two, and then they'll jump on and they're a life coach at the age of 21. So, and I was that person. So I was trying to teach people how to be financially free while I was living at home with my mother. So it's I can relate to it. But guys, just to echo your point, please, when you are looking for mentors and coaches and guides, just make sure they are, obviously you resonate with them, you trust them, but they've most importantly done what it is that you're wanting to do for themselves and for others. Another question I've got is, when it's said and done for you, and this is years and years and years away, when Isabelle's wrapped up her journey, her experience on this planet, and she writes a book about her life, and she's got some chapters in that book around the biggest lessons that have really shaped her that she wants to pass on to the world, what will those chapters be?
Oh, this is good. Okay, the first things that kind of come to my mind, the very first thing that came to my mind was connection. Just really nurture and cultivate really like solid quality friendships in your life, because that is just what is going to, in my experience, get you so far. For so long I feel I really lacked having that in terms of like friendships, and I really just made it such an intention to find those like-minded women. And now it's just so warming to have that tribe both online and in real life. And it's funny how when I was really trying to navigate that and find these, you know, really great friends, I actually made a Facebook community, which was the extension of my podcast, to be this space for other women as well, because it can be so hard to make friends, especially when you're no longer in school. And now it's so nice. Like I just have like an abundance of friendships around me, and they're all just like such quality people. And I just seem to keep attracting such quality friendships. Like it's not just a surface level, like catch up once and that's it kind of thing. It's like I can just go so deep and so open with them on so many things. And I just feel so fortunate to have that in my life. And I just believe that, you know, and another thing actually this kind of follows on, like having people who cheer you on, yes, but another huge chapter which really helped me was to be your biggest cheerleader, to be your biggest supporter, because there's not always going to be people on the sideline cheering you on for every post, every podcast, every this, every that. You need to be that person for yourself. You need to validate yourself. You need to have this like really strong sense of self-worth. Yeah. I feel self-worth yet again. It's something we're constantly working on. Like I'm always facing new self-worth kind of, you know, battles, I want to say, but being that person, like, you know, I listen to my episodes, I look at my content and I love it, and we should love it. You know, we shouldn't have to pick it apart and not like certain things, and appreciate, like, you know, if I listen back to an old episode, I'm probably really going to cringe, but I'm like, I did that thing. So really just celebrating your own success, because that's just going to raise your vibration. That's just going to, you know, we always need to be grateful for what we have right now in order to attract what we then want. If we're really wanting to create more money, more wealth, but we don't have that, what can you be grateful for right now in terms of your finances, in terms of your wealth? Maybe you have $200 to your name. Be grateful you even have that $200 for you then to attract more of that in. So connection, number one fan, biggest cheerleader, and gratitude as well. Like I just shared, like that has been the biggest needle mover. It's such, you know, could be looked at as quite like a bit of a woo-woo concept, but I still write a gratitude list like literally every single day. I notice periods when I, you know, yet again, we go through phases where I don't always do this, and I notice just such a difference in my energy when I haven't done this. And it's so simple. Every morning I think of one person I'm grateful for, I think of one object I'm grateful for, and then one experience I'm grateful for. And it can be the simplest thing, like your drink bottle. It doesn't have to be this like far-fetched thing, but really just being being like, okay, why am I grateful for this? And yeah, this may sound a bit woo-woo to some people, but I kid you not, if you do this practice for 7 days straight, you are just going to feel and see such a shift in your energy, and you're just going to become lighter and just more magnetic yet again to what it is that you want. It's just going to make you like more of a lighter, greater person to be around. So those would be like the biggest chapters, I reckon.
I love that. And synchronicity just then, I was writing the word gratitude as you said your third chapter. So I had a little smile when you did that. My final question before we start to wrap things up, if you could go through and just share just some really practical daily things that you do for you to practice gratitude, meditation, or obviously you had a big conversation around that, whether it's journaling, whether it's going to bed at a certain time, you've got a bedtime routine, a morning routine, or just maybe a couple practical things that people can do right now to start to move the needle forward in terms of their mindset, their business, their life, their connections, their friendships. What are things that you do really well that really serve you?
Okay, starting with the morning firstly. So I meditate first thing in the morning. And what I've been doing for, ever since I've started meditating as well, is just doing my best to not check my phone for as long as possible in the morning. And if you really start to look at like the scientific reasons behind it, like I'll give a bit of a practical sense, this is what is going to help you become so much better at doing this. Because think about it, if we wake up and we reach for our phone straight away, we see messages, notifications, we tap in, we get on a wormhole of Instagram messages, emails, whatever it is, I'm already exhausted thinking about it. We are now prone to constantly wanting to check our phone. It's like our minds can't focus because we're like, oh my God, what if they replied? What if this? What if that? Whereas if we can just like cancel that out, and I just remind myself, if someone replied, if I got an email, it's going to be there when I come back in 10, 20, 30 minutes. I've waited this long. I've been sleeping for 6, 7 hours, 8 hours. It's going to be there in another hour or so. And, I honestly go sometimes up to 2 hours without checking my phone in the morning. And that is like the best thing I have ever done for myself, for my business, for just my mental health. And as well, like if you do want to start meditating, I recommend doing it in the morning. As soon as you wake up, you're a little bit sleepy. It's just so much easier to just kind of drop back into like a really chill state, opposed to like being super like energized and you've had a coffee and you've checked your phone. Like it's going to be so hard to like zen out. So just literally slide up in your bed, lights still off, pajamas still on, just close your eyes and, find a meditation practice that is just so easy for you to do. So that's a big thing. That being said as well, following on, finding things that allow you, my motto so much is work smarter, not harder. So where are you making things so much harder for yourself? And, yet again, a bit of a practical example, I'm such a big advocate on time optimization. So being like, okay, maybe you have like a whole bunch of life admin things to do, a whole bunch of emails, DMs, this, that. How can you kind of make sure you do them all together? So that way your brain isn't like, I'm kind of going a bit of a tangent here, but when we do get burnt out and we're very frazzled, it's because mostly we're kind of jumping from task to task. And it's so powerful just to focus on one thing. I think multitasking is just such a waste of your energy. You're not going to get a very high quality, workload out of that. So being like, okay, I'm going to do my communication at this time, my admin here, my creation here, this, that. So really just being mindful about what you're doing when and focusing on one task at a time. Even if I do think, oh, I'm going to get away and multitask, there's always some kind of little mistake or it's just not as high of a standard as I thought it could be. So not multitasking, time optimizing. And I think lastly as well, making a really big effort and intention on your self-care. So exercise for me is crucial. It doesn't have to be an aggressive gym session, even if it's just a walk. I just think some kind of movement, even if it's just like a few stretches, it's just going to do your mind wonders, your body wonders, obviously as well. But it's just so important. Even if I'm at my desk and, like a lot of my job is pretty much sitting at a desk and I get so agitated and restless sometimes. And I just know there's such a powerful effect. If I am in a bit of a slump and my brain's just not working and nothing's working, if I just step up and go for a walk around the block, I just come back and I feel so energized. So that has been the biggest thing for me as well. Really making self-care a focus, because how can you, that old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. How can you create and build an incredible business or do amazing work if you're just like drained? So yeah, those are my main things.
Great answers. Incredible. Isabelle, if people wanted to reach out to you, either professional services or just to connect with you, say thank you, and just be in your little world and being a part of your world, where's the best place that people can find you?
I'm always hanging out on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Isabelle Prestia. I won't spell it. It's kind of a funny spelling. Maybe you pop it in the show notes. But yeah, I'm always on Instagram. So slide in the DMs there. I love just chatting to people. I always say this as well. Like just, slide in, have a conversation about, whether it's mindset, wellness, business, whatever it may be. On my page, I have links to so many of the stuff I do. So to Sala, to my podcast, to my website. You can have a look at all the different programs and one-on-one offerings I have as well. But yeah, I'm always on social media. So come say hey.
Guys, I had an incredible conversation with Isabelle yesterday, and just the amount of depth and just inspiration you give off is incredible. So guys, please check out her content. Guys, if you got some value from this podcast, like, comment, share, of course, and send it to someone that you think would get value from this and improve the quality of their life. Isabelle, thank you so much. Subscribers and listeners, thank you for listening all the way to the end. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis, so much for having me.